You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
What's up, ladies? How y'all doing? It is your girl, your spiritual sister, Lady Mocha, representing Mocha's Ladies Lounge. Hope everybody's doing good. As promised, this is our Unhinged series. I believe 5. The Unhinged series part 5. Talking about the Mercedes Moore story, y'all. I am doing this particularly due to the fact this video was requested. Now, originally this series was going to be for the members only, but I realized that before I started my members only, the subscriber who reached out to me at the time was not a member. So it would not be fair for me to do content specifically for members when somebody who requested this series before I started my membership. So in this particular instance, I had to honor that. I believe in being fair, reasonable. So I had to readjust that and make sure that I had this video, this content readily available for everybody. For those of you who have not become members of the Mocha's Minions, please be sure to join the membership. It's only $3 a month. Again, it will definitely help me to continue finishing my book, Chicago Storm, so that'll be readily available as well. Those who cannot do membership, that is perfectly fine. I'm still going to be giving y'all great content like I've always done, so don't feel the pressure that you have to have membership in order to keep getting good content. So let's go right into this right away, y'all. This situation occurred back in 2021. It's not very new, but at the same time, this is not an old story that occurred, because there's so much lessons that can be learned in this. I feel like no matter how obsolete a situation may be, at the end of the day, there's a lesson that can always be learned in this type of content, because we're living in a world in which it's a lot of young women out here that are taking advantage of their youth, and they're not understanding that according to how you use your youth, it can be a blessing or it can be a curse. And as women, we have to be very mindful how we use our beauty, and if we're using it in a way in which it can cause us to get caught up in dangerous situations, or in some cases it can cause us to end up in deadly situations. In this case, it costed this young lady to end up in a very deadly situation. And again, let me start off by saying my heart goes out to the family who have been affected by this untimely death, because regardless of what this young lady was doing for a living, it did not warrant her getting her life taken from her. Any and everything I say regarding this content is based off of personal opinion. The facts may not be 100% accurate, being that so many different sources had different viewpoints as to what had occurred. So there's going to be people that's going to agree with some of the information and others who are not going to agree, and that's perfectly fine. But nevertheless, the details are going to be pretty vague. But For the most part, I've checked many sources, and I'm trying to make sure that I give information for as far as all the sources that pretty much said the same thing. So I'm talking about the situation. Beautiful, stunning young woman, has the body of a goddess, definitely beautiful, who was an Instagram model. And with that, of course, being young, being beautiful, not having any children or responsibilities, not being married, Mercedes Moore definitely lived it up. She was living her best life, as you would say. She was a very popular Instagram model. She goes by she goes by the name Mercedes Moore. Okay, that's her Instagram name. But her birth biological name is 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼, who became the social media socialite, Mrs. Mercedes Moore. She was found strangled in her apartment by her father, in her Houston, Texas apartment. Again, all of this happened back in 2021. She was found lying at the bottom of her stairs and strangled. And her father thinks that she had been dead for quite a couple of days before he actually found her. He been trying to get in touch with her for like a day or so, and once he started noticing she was not responding at all, wasn't posting anything at all, that became a red flag. So that is what gave him the intuition to go and actually see how she was doing and actually physically go and check on her. However, when her father entered the apartment, seeing his daughter laying there, from, you can tell, an unfortunate event that caused strangulation, he also went upstairs and ran into the man who unalived her by the name of Kevin Alexander Ocordo, which was lying in a pool of blood. He stabbed himself in the neck when he heard Mark kicking the door in. So at that time, after he had strangled this young lady and he hears a kick at the door, he knows it's someone who's coming to actually enter into the apartment to see what's going on, to assess the situation. So him already being in a bad emotional state of mind, and the fact that he had just unalived this woman, he knew he had to make a decision. He had to make it quick, because if anyone would have came in there and found him, in this case, that person being Mr. Gagnier, Mercedes' father. I'm just calling by her Instagram name since that's what she's most well known for. Mercedes' father entered the apartment, found his daughter, and as he went upstairs, Kevin, the man who unalived his daughter, he could see him gurgling, could see that he was dying, due to the fact that he had punctured his own self in the neck. This man knew he was going to die regardless of what. Had it been her father who would have got to him first, so he took the coward way out. He did not want to face the consequences, the drastic consequences that he was going to have to encounter after the fact. So he took the coward way out. He took his own life before anybody else could have. Either way, I'm pretty sure he was not going to make it out alive, especially when her father arrived there and saw that his daughter's life had been taken. And truth be told, the father would have been 1,000% in the right. You taking matters into your own hands, taking somebody else's child's life, only for them to come into their child's apartment and see you there alive after you just unalived their daughters. Either way, the results were going to be tragic. That's what I want to say. So I guess Kevin looked at it this way: I'd rather take myself out than let somebody else do it. in the initial beginning, the details was pretty vague. A lot of people was trying to come up with their own narratives. Like, a lot of people thought he had been there for several days. He was not there for several days. He was just there that same day for that particular day when he decided to take the life of Mercedes. So no, he didn't unalive her and just chilled and, had coffee and tea in the apartment with Mercedes' lifeless body laying there. No, that was not the case. All of it actually went down within that very same day, and he also took his life. So I had a point I was gonna make, but I'll hold on to that till I get a little further. But to add insult to injury, there was a writing on the wall in blood that you can obviously tell Kevin was the one who wrote the message in blood. He wrote, "I should have stayed in Florida. I wish I never loved her, and I was used." Her father said he was constantly worried about her obsessed and crazy followers. She had over 2 million Instagram followers, but also ran accounts on OnlyFans, and her father says worked in private clubs. Police still at the time wasn't sure of how Okorto found her address. Now, keep in mind, this was when everything first initially came out. It was so many different narratives to this surrounding this whole incident that occurred. Now, what her parents and her fans, the narratives that they was pretty much pushing was that the guy was a stranger. He was some stalker who was just obsessed with her, and he didn't know much about her. I mean, he was just a stranger to her. So what I'm going to do is pump the brakes here. And I am going to play a snippet of the actual news when it broadcasted this story. And her father is also interviewed on the news as part of the segment as well. So I'm going to play a snippet of it because I want y'all to hear her father's perception on what he believed had happened, and after that I will come back with my commentary.
Now, the family of an Instagram model who was killed in an apparent murder-suicide is now speaking out. We first told you about the death of Miss Mercedes Moore yesterday.
Authorities say her body was found in her apartment in Fort Bend County, along with the body of a man who killed her on Sunday. And now her family has come forward to share their heartbreak as they search for answers following this disturbing discovery. KPRC 2's Jacob Rascone live in Richmond tonight with the new details. Jacob?
The family says they hadn't heard from her for a couple days, so they showed up here to the apartment complex. When no one answered when the dad knocked, he kicked the door in and said he found his daughter there on the floor, already deceased, and her killer upstairs with a knife in him, still alive. To her parents and other family and friends, 33-year-old 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼 was so much more than an Instagram model.
She was special. Just like she had a few million followers, that's all fine and good. But she was a person, and we miss her a lot.
Searching us out to get the facts. 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼 was loved, funny, goofy, crazy as hell. Crazy as hell. I know, and I shouldn't say that about my daughter, but that's my daughter. Your first insight when I went into my daughter's apartment and saw her there, anger took over. Well, I'm sorry. Sadness took over real quick. My girlfriend, bless her little heart, at the time ran upstairs. Saw the guy still in there. Anger took over. And she's crying hysterically. I'm mad as can be.
For fair use and educational purposes only. Fair use.
I didn't cry at first. And I said I didn't cry because I was so mad and upset that this guy, even though he was committing suicide at the time, was in my daughter's house. My daughter's dead on the floor. And I don't know what he did. I just knew that it was somebody that my daughter doesn't associate with, and not because of the person he was or is my daughter. We keep her private. Nobody, not even her real friends, really knew her name. I've moved my daughter 3 times just because of my insecurities and the freeze, of course, but she doesn't have friends by her house. I know my daughter, and when I got to my daughter's house, and it was locked up, and she's not answering my phone, which is not like her, I knew something was up, so I didn't hesitate to take
I
the door
find
down.
it mighty strange that he had to move her 3 times. So, with that being said, if you had to move her 3 times, either you knew what type of lifestyle your daughter was doing, or she's had so many crazy incidences in which you felt the need to have to move her every time she had an encounter. So it was one or the other, but either way, you knew your daughter was living a very risky lifestyle to the point that you kept fearing her safety, in which it caused you to have to move her around more than once. That to me is already a major red flag as a parent. If you have to keep moving your child from one apartment to a different apartment to a different apartment, something isn't quite right. Or either you're just being oblivious to your child's lifestyle. I definitely have to commend Mr. Gagnier for really, keeping his composure during such a significant loss. I could only imagine still having to keep yourself reserved and well together with so many people interviewing you, questioning you about everything, the events surrounding your daughter. So I definitely have to give him props on that, as he's been able to keep his composure. So nevertheless, going right along, listening to the father, I can tell he knew that his daughter was pretty much out there. Every parent has that one child, or more than one child, that has always been kind of the daredevil. I know because I have one myself. Very bold, very confident, not afraid to take chances. Will step out on a dare, because they have a lot of confidence, and at the same time, confidence and craziness. So I can tell that the father knew that his daughter, Mercedes, was definitely a force to be reckoned with. She didn't mind pushing the limits. She definitely was one of those girls that was very adventurous, and he knew that. And he even so far as to admitted that she was crazy. Now that could be considered in more than one factor. He could admit his daughter's crazy, as in always taking a dare, willing to take chances, very spontaneous. He could have meant it in that sense, or could have meant it in the sense of crazy, as in she just don't think things through when she actually decides to do it. She just does it. She would jump off the airplane, jump off the helicopter without checking to see if her parachute works. She was just one of those type of females that was very risky. So he could admit that, or crazy as in she just was a really wild girl, kind of out there. Like we all have that one child that's just always out there, always hustling, bustling, running game, getting over, and the truth is, you can't really fault him 100% for it, because at the end of the day, she's a grown woman. And when your children become grown, you can guide them in some things, but for the most part, they are old enough to make their own decisions. And the truth is, a lot of them are not going to always apply the wisdom, the knowledge, and grace that you have given them. So they tried to shed this pretty light. The mother, the father, Cardi B, a lot of celebrities came to the defense of Mercedes Moore. when the media got a hold of the story, everybody was pretty much coming up with their own theories. But for the most part, a lot of people was discrediting Mercedes more in a sense by basically calling her a gold digger, calling her a hoe. Because from what others perceived, she knew the man. But what her family and friends were saying, they were trying to push the narrative that Mercedes didn't know nothing about this man. Being that Mercedes has so many followers, so many people that was fans, and the fact that their daughter was so beautiful and gorgeous, she wouldn't stoop so low, as to dealing with a man, a struggling better male. And truth is, a lot of people would think that because women who carry themselves in the manner that Mercedes does, with the designer labels, clothes, shoes, you could tell she was one of those women. She loved the best of everything. So of course, to people on the outside, the man who took her life, nobody would believe that she would stoop so low as to even want him, as to even be with him, as to even make him believe that they stood a chance of being together. So nobody wanted to believe that Mercedes had her own type of connection with this guy, because again, she looks like nothing that a woman, a female of her looks and status would even be attracted to. After all, she knew all the big ballers, shot callers, she knew all the rappers, all the athletes, she knew Snoop Dogg, she knows a lot of the people within the industry. So that's why nobody would believe that she would dare stoop so low as to being involved with this, low common denominator, low value man. Nobody believed that she would voluntarily even take anything from him. So the narrative that everybody was pushing, was trying to promote, was Kevin was a stalker. He was a stalker. She did not know him. He was an obsessed fan. Okay? I initially thought that too when the story first came out. I figured he was one of those creepy dudes that was always getting rejected by other women, and I figured he followed Mercedes, studied her page, basically from afar, acting like a crazed, deranged fan, who would be willing to travel, to go broke, just to have a moment with her, just to see her. You'll be surprised how far some people will go to get something they want, even if they don't have the means or the connections to do it. So anyway, that was the story that everybody was trying to push, that Mercedes was too beautiful of a woman to have to manipulate a guy like that and to get money out of him, that she's the queen of the crop. Look, based on simply how she looks, she would never be interested in a guy that looks like Kevin, which is why he got obsessed, based off of people believing that he was just a fan, a follower of hers, or somebody who she knew that just couldn't simply handle rejection. So whatever the case was, you can tell in the interview her parents wanted to pretty much put up this picture perfect persona that Mercedes was this loving person, a good-hearted person, and all this and that. And it's not that I disagree with that. It's not that I don't believe that. But what I do know is, I don't care how much you praise your child, how much you praise your children, you really don't know how your children are behind closed doors. You would think that you taught them better, they know better, that they will utilize the wisdom and knowledge that you gave them and learn how to apply it when they get themselves in certain situations, only for them to do the complete opposite of what you raised them to do. So I understand why Mercedes, both her parents are on the news, basically trying to give people a better perception of what Mercedes Moore was really about. That she was a beautiful woman that was just well admired. So they wanted to push the narrative that Kevin was just some psycho fan who Mercedes knew nothing about, who was stalking her Instagram page, kept DMing her, running her down to try to have something with her. You got some guys out here that don't have the best of self-esteem when it comes to dealing with women. And they can't understand when they're being used or when a woman is really into them. You have some men that are not well at having discretion. They can't tell if a woman is really into them or she just wants to get into their pockets. These are mostly the better males that have low self-esteem. They're so glad to get attention from any woman, even if she's only giving him attention to get something out of him. He'll gravitate towards her. So Mercedes' family and her friends tried to paint a pretty picture when a lot of people started putting the truth out there that no, she was not just this beautiful Instagram model who simply got her money off of just being pretty. That's part of it, but what they stated was implied allegedly that Mercedes Moore was a call girl. Keep in mind when if y'all are not familiar with Backpage was like a version of Facebook, except it was specifically for women to sell themselves to men who don't have an issue with buying prostitutes. So Backpage was very popular during that time, and a lot of girls make their money through Backpage. Now, of course, you couldn't blatantly say you was a prostitute or you was a hooker. You could not use those words. You had to say I am a massager. I love to give massages, or I forgot what's the other one they say, they basically tried to downplay it by not labeling the women as escorts, call girls, prostitutes, but that's really what Backpage was about. It was a place for lustful men who don't have any control over their temptation, who would rather seek fulfillment than to seek for God to fill them with the Spirit. They rather get sexual fulfillment than to get spiritual fulfillment by actually, having a relationship with God, so they're not feeling deprived of what the world has to offer them, which is usually really anything ever good. So they try to paint a pretty picture. But the truth of the matter is, when you're well known like that, in Mercedes' case, having over 2 million followers, that means there's plenty of people who know the real you. They know how you get down. They know what you're really about. They know how you make your money. Of course, family is grieving, and they don't want their daughter's legacy being tainted of people perceiving her the wrong way. But the truth of the matter was, she was, from what I can gather, based off of my own personality and my own opinion, she was basically tricking. She doesn't look beautiful and glam like that with design labels for nothing. You have men out there who could easily be deceived. Proverbs chapter 31, verse 30th. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Charm is very deceptive, and so is beauty. And this is the problem. When you have a one-track mind and you lack spiritual discernment, you can't really read or be able to distinguish when someone is for you or when someone is not. Now, like the scripture says, and beauty is fleeting, meaning it's only temporarily. And that is when the real theory came out about what really went on. The parents tried to paint a pretty picture of Mercedes by saying she was a beautiful girl. This is just was some crazed, low self-esteem stalker who followed her because he became obsessed with her. That was the fake narrative that they wanted y'all to believe. I get it though. You lose a child, you want their reputation to at least be a good one, because they're not longer here to defend themselves, to redeem that. And no parent wants people to look at their daughters as somebody who was a prostitute, somebody who was tricking, running game, hoeing, so as a parent, you're already feeling terrible that you lost your child due to death, due to a violent death. The last thing you want is for people to be saying anything negative or slandering your daughter, when you know they only know her for what she presents them to be, but you know them for what you raised them to be. You know their intentions, you know their morals, but the problem is when you got people on the outside looking in, they're going to draw their own conclusion. So I ran into this other video where it pretty much confirmed what a lot of people were saying, and it also confirmed what Mercedes' parents did not want to hear, does not want to believe. And I get it. When you done already lost someone, it's no need in making that person feel worse by pouring more water. Listen, you don't pour water on a drowning man. So I get it. This is not the time during such a significant loss for anybody to be coming at the parents sideways like you should have did this, you should have did that. I'm sure in their mind they did the best that they could do, but there's also some red flags, because if y'all listen, that's why I kept playing it back, doubling it back, where the father says, he always had to move her because he was always insecure, meaning he knew what his daughter was up to. He had to have a clue. He was basically worrying about the fans being stalkers and being obsessed, which was his reasoning. So he say of helping her to, that his purpose of making her move 3 times. I'm sure he knows something. A man is a man. A man knows when somebody is hoeing, even if it's his own daughter and he doesn't want to believe it. Common sense, your daughter come home 2, 3 in the morning from not a job, from a date. You should be able to put the pieces together. But what I like about this guy whose clip I'm getting ready to play now, he broke it down to a science. This version actually made way more sense than what Mercedes' father was saying. No disrespect to Mercedes' dads, but this theory that I'm getting ready to present to y'all sounds way more feasible to me than what the parents are saying. For this to be a gated community and for them to act like, he just got up in there because he waited for somebody to stand and open the door so he can get up and open the gate so he can get in there, like he just ambushed and found his way there. As I play this next clip, all the pieces are going to come together. It's going to make sense to you, and you're going to be able to decipher and know, nah, this was not a crazed stalker. No, this was somebody your daughter was simping and tricking. But I'll let you be the judge of that. So I'm going to go ahead and roll that beautiful beam footage, and I'll be back with my commentary.
Hey, what's up, man? It's your boy 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼, man. Y'all gonna hit that like button before I get into this.
For fair use and educational purposes.
Mercedes Moore from
fair
Texas,
use.
Houston, the Houston area. She was found dead in Richmond. That's where I'm from, Richmond. So a lot of people been talking about Mercedes Moore, how she died and how everything came about and how things came to be. But everybody in Mercedes Moore social circle, close circle, they know exactly on how this could have came about. Now, for those who don't know, Mercedes Moore is a popular Instagram model, and she also is an escort. Her parents knew that. Her parents found out that she was an escort back in 2016, around the time that they shut down Backpage. Before they shut down Backpage, she was up there. Long story short, by her being an Instagram model, trying to pursue this modeling thing, the best thing to do is network, get outside the states and travel. Cities such as California, Georgia, Florida, etc. I just named out the states and a few states that I know for a fact that she's been in. Mercedes Moore ended up finding herself going to Florida one year. She met the man who became her killer. She went out on a date with him. When I say went out on a date with him, I don't mean going out for lunch, food, and drinks and nothing like that. I'm talking about you pay for this and we gonna do etc. They call it a date. That's what they call it. Anybody who's into that type of business, they already know what it is that I mean. Now, Mercedes Moore, she met this man, went out on a date with him. She was in Florida only for 4 days at this time, going to different strip clubs and hitting up different dating websites, doing a little bit of OnlyFans, this, that, and third. Okay. After she leaves Florida, this man stays in contact with her. He's a trick. This man sends her money through Cash App, PayPal, and Zelle. The history is up there. Whenever they found her dead, her parents knew off the moo that this is somebody that she's knew. This man constantly sent her money through Cash App, PayPal, and etc. In fact, last month, he paid for her car note and insurance. Okay? As they talking and exchanging words through text messages or whatever, he tells her that he do construction. And at times that he travel outside the different states, because that's what his company does. Travel outside the different states and they might do construction. They might get a 30-day stay at so-and-so place just so they can have this 30 days to try to finish up this construction type stuff. You know what I mean? So whenever he told her that he was in Texas, she didn't look at it as if he was stalking her or as if he was obsessed. She looked at more so as if like, okay, well, I'm assuming you in Texas doing construction. Because that's what you told me you do. And this is what you told me ahead of time, that sometimes you do travel outside of the Florida limitations. So whenever he tells her that he's in Texas, he asks if he can go see her. That's when she gave him her location. She dropped her location. He went to her house in Richmond. It was no forced entry. It was none of that. Knocked on the door. She let him in. Now, once he got in there, I don't know exactly what happened or how things were said, but I can make many accusations, but I'm not going to do that. Because after all, somebody actually did lose their life in this. But what I can say was this was a dealing of her own faith. Now, this man, he ended up killing her, tried to make it look like a suicide. Some said that he was roaming around in her apartment for days before they found her dead. Now, I know that don't sound right. Mercedes Moore got many people constantly hitting her up, texting her, calling her, FaceTiming and all that. And if can't nobody get in touch with her within a 24-hour time frame, then I know for a fact somebody gonna go to her house and check up on her to see what's good. You know what I mean? And to see that you're not active on social media as you would normally be. So I don't really go with the story that he was roaming around the house days after he already killed her. I can't go with that. But what I can say was after he killed her and tried to make it look like a suicide, he ended up killing himself and taking his blood and scribbling some things on the wall saying, I'm sorry to the landlord. Some crazy stuff. Crazy. But yeah, that's what happened to Mercedes Moore, man. You know what I'm saying? She ended up dying due to...
For fair use and educational purposes only.
Her own actions.
Fair use.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe Mercedes Moore, rest in peace.
I don't know about y'all, but to me, his theory sounds a little bit more accurate. But we're going to say his theory is all based off of his opinion. And again, all of this is alleged. Okay? But if I had to make a bet between what Mercedes' parents and family believes based on what this young man said, I'm not going to lie, I'm more so leaning towards what this young man says, because you got to keep in mind, being a parent, unfortunately, your kids' friends are going to know, or your children's peers or followers are going to get more information quicker than you as the parent. It's just that way. Parents, we're usually the last to know. I really don't think either Mercedes' parents knew, or either they were just totally oblivious to it and just knew that Mercedes was a grown-ass woman. She was going to do what she wanted to do anyway. So therefore, they just had to turn the other way, you know what I mean? And just act like, they don't know what's going on or whatever. But it's common sense, when your child is out there and doing things they don't need to be doing. So I believe that this man was not just stalking her. And I believe this from the moment. I never believed that this was a man who just randomly stalked her. I just did not believe it. I believe this was a man she had been tricking off of for quite some time. Now, keep in mind that unattractive men of low value, meaning men who don't value themselves, because I can't define what is valuable or what isn't valuable. Every woman is different as far as what she perceives as a valuable man, and vice versa. So, men who don't think highly of themselves, who do get attention from women, they almost likely to become prey as a trick, due to the fact that they themselves are surprised that a woman would even be interested in them. And what happens with women in this type of lifestyle, they have learned to stroke the ego of the opposite sex by making a man feel confident, making a man believe that she likes him, making a man believe that she feeling him. And it's all a game, it's all strategy, in order for her to be able to compensate off of him as a trick. It's no different than prostitutes that stroll the streets. No different than strippers who work at the strip club. They will tell you, you have to make these men think you like them or think you into them to get them money. You might have to rub them on their little arm, show them a little affection, talk to them, hold conversation with them. The guy could be 80 years old, no teeth in his mouth, you smelling like mothballs, and you have to make this man feel like he's the finest thing walking. And any man who partakes in this type of activity with females, if he's a man and he knows better, he knows that it's not about him. It's only about what he can provide when it comes to the dollars. So he'll play the game as long as he's able to benefit from it. But at the end of the day, he knows not to take her seriously. He knows not to get any feelings involved. He knows that. He knows not to take her deep and serious. Wham bam, thank you ma'am. Get you some head. Get you little sloppy toppy whatever. Drop her some dollars on her nightstand and keep it moving. He knows not to fall in love, not to try to make her a wife or make her a lifetime commitment. He already knows that he knows his position, and he respects the hustle, because he's also getting what he wants to get out of the situation too. So, even if it's just something temporary. So, nevertheless, Mercedes Moore, being young, although she's a grown woman, she was still young, meaning she has not been out there and got all the experiences necessary to know when you are encountering a emotional simp, which is what Kevin Acosta was. Mercedes was just specifically focusing on the money. And when you're a call girl, or when you a female in that type of lifestyle where you tricking and pimping men for money, you have to get past, you got to look past the personal stuff like, ew, he's not my type, ew, he's too old, ew, his hair smells funny. You got to specifically focus on the money. You can't worry about if he fine, if his money come from him cutting grass, or his money come from him being an executive producer. Money is money. That's why all women cannot do this. You have to have the mindset to focus on the money. Being a prostitute, and not saying that that is what Mercedes is or isn't, is different type of prostitutes. You got your call girls, you got your escorts, you got your prostitutes who roam the street. Is different positions, is different levels to this type of game. I can't say for sure exactly what her level was, but nevertheless, all women cannot finesse men in this type of lifestyle, because you can't be choosy, you can't be funny. You got to realize money is money. I don't care if he's black, fat, and ugly as ever, whatever. I don't care if he's 85 and can't get it up. You want that money, you got to make it get up. And guess what? You have women out here, they don't have a problem with doing that. They're not picking like, ew, he's too big, he's too fat. Listen, if the bankroll is fat, if they got to lift his stomach up to get that sloppy toppy, whatever, to make it happen, so they can get that money, then that's what they're going to do. You know what I mean? And this is not only women who do this that are unattractive. You have women that look so stunning and so beautiful, you would never think that they would stoop this low to be able to trick these type of men into supplying their lifestyle. But when you are about that money, you learn to dismiss your personal feelings, like what's your type, what you like, what you don't like. For you, you know it's a business, it's a hustle. So for a lot of people to feel as if Kevin was a stalker versus an actual simp supplier, it's only because they look at how stunning and beautiful Mercedes Moore is and figure she could do better. Why would she want him? She never wanted him. She wanted the money. And let me tell you something. Consistent money is better than inconsistent money. For instance, if you're in this lifestyle and you got two different men, right? You got the unattractive dude who's always consistent with his money. Whenever y'all get together, you know he gonna come correct with his money. You know you're not gonna have to beg him for it. You're not gonna have to ask him for it. He gonna have that money up front. He's always been consistent with that bread. Here it is, the nice looking dude who funny with his money. One minute he act like he want to pay you right. Next minute he trying to talk you down from your prices, trying to bargain with you on the vajayjay. Or, you know, he think he's so fine and sexy he ain't got to pay you nothing. If you are in that lifestyle, most likely you're going to take the inconsistent John Doe, who you know gonna be for show with his money. That's why I say this lifestyle ain't for everybody. If you one of them women, you picky, oh, he not cute enough, he not fine enough, he ain't my type. Listen, you're not gonna make no money. Mercedes Moore, as beautiful as she is, believe it or not, beautiful women have their moments in which they can't get a lick. It happens. Women who are strippers, who work in a strip club, they'll tell you some nights that money rolling and some nights that money ain't rolling. It is a hustle. And as beautiful as Mercedes Moore is, she has had her droughts in which she couldn't get no money from nobody. Sometimes it be like that. Unless you working a straight 9 to 5, that's the thing about hustling. Hustling that money, 1 minute is popping and next minute it ain't. You know, no different than what I do with my tumbler sales. 1 minute I'm getting a lot of people who want to buy some, and then I go through my periods to where I don't hardly get any sales. Nobody hardly wants to buy any. You know, so it's up and down because it's a hustle, you know. And no different than what Mercedes was doing now. What I believe Mercedes, the type of lifestyle she was doing, she was one of those beautiful Instagram models who basically used her looks to capitalize off of men's dollars. Okay, Now, what she did with these men, that is where I'm a little vague, and that's why I have to say allegedly. She could be one of those women who actually was having sexual relations with these men, and they was putting money in her bank account, or she could have been these women just using her looks, making a man think she likes him, making a man believe he has a chance with her in bed, so he keeps spending money, only to find out that he's not getting nothing in return. So it could be one or the other. She's actually sleeping with these men, or she's lying and taking their money, deceiving them into making them think that eventually that they're going to land the cookie. Women do play games. They do manipulate, especially when you know you have the looks. It's even easier to get over on men when you have the looks to play the part. If you're not that attractive, it's a little harder. You got to kind of put in work to get men to invest in you. But if you have the looks, you have the two S's, the shape and the smile, there's going to always be a simp that's going to fall for it. As much as these guys try to, mentor other men and teach other men about not letting women simp them for their money. But the truth is, most men are natural born simps. As long as you got the two S's, the shape and the smile, you can practically get what you want out of them. So I'm not sure exactly how Mercedes, if she actually was sexually involved with these men, or she would take their money from them and not give them anything in return. So, which brings to the detail about what possibly occurred. As a young man told you in the snippet that, Mercedes had to go start traveling different states to expand herself. Sometimes when people become way too familiar with you in the same area, in the same county, your name becomes too well known. You don't get the same amount of clientele. You got to expand. She started expanding in Florida and other states, Atlanta, wherever, you know what I mean? You got to extend yourself. And that is what she did. That's why she's so well known. She had to be hanging out in social spaces in different states. She knows Snoop Dogg, she knows Drake, she knew Tory Lanez, she knew Cardi B. So evidently she was one of those women that didn't just stay in one area. And if you want to keep making money off of these men and pimping these men, that's what you got to do. How you think some of these women end up marrying these basketball players, ended up marrying these rappers and stuff? They don't just sit home and be on the internet. They actually go to these events. They go to these after parties. You have women who intentionally go to the Lakers games, go to the basketball games, the football games, not because they really like the teams. Got nothing to do with that. Not because they like the game of basketball. They hang out in these places hoping to eventually court one of these dudes and hoping to eventually get something solid where they could simp off of them. The same thing with rappers. They go to these after parties. They go to these hip hop awards events and stuff. In order to land these type of men, you got to affiliate and be in their circle. You got to go different places. I would have a hard time if I wasn't married. I would have a harder time meeting men in the industry because I don't have the money or the patience to keep doing all that traveling just to go to a basketball game, just to go to a rapper's after party at his mansion, hoping I get lucky and hit a scratch off card in which I'll land a big baller. I just don't have the patience for that, and plus I'm older now. But a lot of these young women, that is what they do. They know that if they want men of money to notice them, you got to roll with money, you got to hang around with money, you got to be in that environment for people to notice you. And Mercedes was one of those, you could tell she was a city girl, socialite, well known, everybody knows her, and her looks alone has that magnetic appeal where men are just drawn to her like that, where they don't mind buying her a drink, don't mind showing her a good time, don't mind, rolling with her in the limo, don't mind dropping her some dollars. You got some men, it's not always about booty with them. They just like to drop the dollars because they know you cute and it ain't hurting them none. But that's for the men who are really successful. You have men like Lil Wayne and Drake and them, they could drop some thousands on you and they don't feel cheated if you don't call them back. Now, on the other hand, when you are dealing with men that are in the struggle, Mercedes Moore was dealing with Kevin Acosta, which was a man in the struggle. Now, from what I read, he would cut grass. He did construction. He did that hard labor type of work, okay? So, which meant when you're dealing with men in the struggle, they value what you do and how you handle them with their money compared to a man that's a millionaire, compared to a man that's successful. Now, there are some millionaires, there are some successful men that are funny with their money now. It don't matter if they're millionaires, they're not going to let a woman come into their life and just run through their money like water. So I don't want no women thinking, oh, if I get a baller, I ain't got to worry about that because he ain't keeping up with his money. No, absolutely not. You got some of them out there that is just as penny pinching and stingy as a drunk standing on the curb with $5. Okay, so don't underestimate your opponent. So Kevin Acosta was working construction. Of course, he's a minority. He's Hispanic. So he most likely comes from a world of struggle, meaning he probably made decent money to pay his bills, pay his little car notes, stuff like that. Evidently, he made enough money to supply Mercedes more. He paid her car insurance, her car note. So whatever he paid her was practically what he worked hard for. Not to discredit men that are rich and successful, but what I'm saying is, because I know they work hard for their money too, but what I'm saying is, in this instance, is that this man was really, really struggling. Ain't no tell, he was most likely working paycheck to paycheck, doing hard labor, cutting grass. Construction is hard work. I know my husband has his own roofing company. He does hard labor, climbing, lifting. And not no sit behind your desk type of job. So the money he was putting in Mercedes' pockets was money he struggled for. And he most likely was giving her all of his hard-earned money because he was feeling her in a way that she was nowhere feeling him. He was so fixated off her looks and her body that he didn't mind being used. At the time, he didn't mind being used. And you got some men who play games like women who play games. You know, you play stupid games, you end up with stupid prizes, as they say. Like you got women out here who like to jerk men around. You got men who don't mind being jerked around because they think eventually they're going to win a woman over. You got men out here thinking they could win a woman over by giving them money, giving them money, giving them money. Okay, pretty much like side chicks. Side chicks thinking they're going to win a married man over by consistently giving him blowjobs, consistently, every night, giving him some front, back, up, down, whatever positions, doggy style, missionary, doing all of this stuff, thinking that as long as I keep doing this, eventually I'm going to win him over and he's going to be my man. Only to find out he's just taking all of what he can get out of you because he has no intentions on ever leaving his wife. No different than what some of these women out here do with these men. They take their money, and have no intentions on ever being with them, giving them any, just taking their money. So the man of low value, he's so happy to be getting attention. He'll go with the flow. He don't mind being pimped for a while. He'll go with the shenanigans. Because in his mind, he thinks eventually it's going to work out in his favor. But as time goes on, he starts catching on. I'm getting used. Especially when he's seeing you giving men other attention. Especially when he starts seeing you're not returning the favor, like you won't even cook him a hot plate, won't even make him a sandwich, won't even call and check on him. Especially the low value dude, he starts paying attention to the fact that you're not looking out for him in no shape or form. Because you got to realize this is his hard-earned money. This is not a Drake. This is not a Snoop Dogg where he can give you thousands and thousands and he don't give a damn because he's married and already has other women, other groupies or whatever. He's not going to be focusing on you because he's top tier. He got so much money and he already got so many female fans. He's not going to be asphyxiated on you. Kevin, on the other hand, was very asphyxiated off of Mercedes Moore. You could look at him and tell he's not that attractive of a guy to where he got so many women knocking on his door that if Mercedes was to reject him, he's not losing anything. Not like he's so fine, he got women lined up. Like, okay, he can afford to take the L because there's so many other women out there that are just dying to be with him. He didn't have other options. That's why he kept giving Mercedes all of his money. Now, if you read in between the lines, even though her parents kept saying at first they believed he was a stalker, an obsessed Instagram follower that was just infatuated with her, this man had access to her apartment complex. It's gated, which means you most likely need a special code. And I'm sure Mercedes, being a female of luxury and wanting the best, she did not move in a gated community in which anybody could come up there and have access. He was an easy trick. She gave, this is my opinion, I believe she gave the man access to come over there. Because the man has always given her money. And once I give you the rest of the intake, I'm sure y'all will further agree that she knew this man. Let's say even if somebody was standing there, let's say if he was standing there hiding out in the bushes and waiting for the gate to go up for somebody to go through. I still don't believe that's the case. I believe because he's been a consistent simp, even though whatever he's giving her isn't a lot, but that's still consistent money. Like I said, which dude you rather deal with? Pretty boy, unemployed Floyd that wants to see you and only give you $20, $30, while you have broke down Brad, you know, Poverty Felipe, who's consistent with his $300 to $500. That's not a lot, but that's still something that's consistent that's gonna pay a bill. Kevin was an easy simp, an easy trick for Mercedes. She never had to gripe or pull teeth to get what she needed out of him. Because he called himself really being in love with her, having feelings for her like that. She wasn't feeling him. She was trying to fill her bank account. And him, I don't know if he doesn't really understand the psyche of dealing with women in his lifestyle, or because of his culture, he doesn't really understand how women like her get down like that. Something made him believe, somewhere in his mind, he really believed that this woman was feeling him, and she wasn't. So she allowed him to come over because he's the simple John, the easy John, the one who she's always been able to just get something out of and not have to do anything in return. Of course she let him come over. He paying her, he been giving her money all this time. So either he came in town and was like, look, because for one, for him to come this far, he been fed up. For him to take a drive all the way from Texas to Miami, he was determined he was going to get this woman to be with him. Think about taking a drive that far. The whole time in his mind, I want to see her because I want to be with her. I hope when I see her, she's happy to see me. She wants to be with me. You don't know what was going on in his mind that whole drive. And for him to drive that far to get her attention, he had it up to here. He wanted to make it be known that he really want to be with her like that. Now in her mind, she thinking like, okay, hell, this another trick. More money, more money, more money. She warming her hands up, getting it ready, because she just knows when he comes over, he going to drop those dollars, and that's going to be that. Either she was gonna drop those drawers for him to drop those dollars, or either he was just gonna drop those dollars, and she never dropped her drawers. Either way, she knew he was gonna be dependent. He was going to come through, because so far he's always come through with the money. Okay, so imagine he's doing all this long driving, coming from Texas to Miami. Finally get there, calls her. This just my ratchet version of what I think happened. Hey, I'm here in town, want to hang out with you, want to spend some time with you. Okay, cool, all right. Well, if you want, you're welcome to come here and hang out with me a couple hours. Okay, cool, no problem. So he probably, even though he ended up being the man who unalived her, he probably was a gentleman. He probably was real soft-spoken, easygoing, chilled, laid back. I'm sure he did not show any aggressive vibes. Had he done so, I'm sure she wouldn't have felt comfortable with allowing him to come over. Not only that, the man does not have a criminal history. He does not have a record. He's never been in prison before. I think he's been in jail for like something like a traffic ticket or something. So nowhere in his persona he gives this vibe that he's this aggressive man that can possibly unalive you. I'm sure he did not give off those vibes. He seemed easy, simple, and the kind of dude you could kind of get over. I'm not gonna lie, in my young days, I had my city girl before I got married, where I just knew the guy I could get to always take me out for a free meal and not have to do nothing for him, versus if I call this guy and ask him out, he gonna want to smash just to get a 2-piece and a biscuit. I never dealt with those type of guys or whatever. So as a woman, you know what I mean, you rather deal with a guy that's not going to give you a hard time and give you what you want, versus a man that's good looking, drive nice cars, but you got to damn near pull teeth just for him to take you to the movies. You know what I mean? So that's why she felt comfortable with him coming over. He came over, and Mercedes, being young and probably not taking life too serious, evidently, always been free-spirited person. He probably was in that apartment, sat there, stood there, whatever, and probably noticed that she really wasn't paying his ass no attention. Like, okay, you here, but I ain't gonna hang out with you all day. I got stuff I got to do. I'm sure she was not giving him that gratitude he was looking for. She welcomed him there, let him in, and he probably feeling some type of way because she probably wasn't crazy. She probably didn't even see that excited to see him. Probably gave him a bland hug, just enough to make him think she gives a damn because she needs the money, or probably didn't even hug him at all. He probably was trying to express his feelings, like, look, I've been with you for a while. I've been looking out for you. I've been taking my hard-earned money. You got some men, when they get in that emotional state of mind, they do that. Even though you got a lot of these guys who try to act all masculine, like they don't act like that, but some men who are looking for something out of you, they can, to some degree, end up becoming emotional. They try to run this guilt trip on you, like, I've been there for you, I've done so much for you, I've been there when other men wasn't there. He's pouring his heart out on the table, probably telling her how much he really likes her, and she probably gave him the hand, like, dude, ninja, please listen, I'm about my money, okay? I don't know what you came over here on, but I ain't on what you on. Okay, you a cool dude, you nice, I do appreciate how you be looking out for me, but I ain't feeling you like that. And I can tell Mercedes Moore is very feisty, because I can tell she's one of them women, young women, she knows what she wants, and she ain't got a problem putting in your place to get it. She has that little feisty, spicy attitude, which is what probably made her so popular and why a lot of people are so drawn to her. And she probably told him that, like, I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm not looking to be with you. I'm just about having a good time. Somewhere, an argument, something went down that provoked this man to unalive her. Now, This does not justify, this does not mean that he was justified in it, or he was correct in it. He had no business. He was nowhere in the right for unaliving her. He should have been man enough to accept the rejection, accept you got pimped out your money, and keep it moving. An argument, something went down. Words were said. To this day, nobody would know that but Mercedes, Kevin, and God himself, who was standing there when all of this went down. There was some words exchanged. I feel like you used me. You took advantage of me. You blah, blah, blah. You took my money. I thought we had something. I thought we was going to be together. I don't know how the hell you thought that. You know what I do. This is how I roll. I'm not looking for a man right now. I'm not looking for nobody. The kind of girl I am, you're not going to be able to take care of me like that. I'm not going to lie. The money you was giving me, I was able to get some snacks and stuff with it, but you don't make enough money for me to want to be with you. I'm sure she tore up his ego. Now, she was stroking his ego as long as he was paying out money. But when he went to making demands and wanting to try to take things to a next level, I'm sure she punched him in his manhood. We don't know. Maybe things got ugly. She shoved him first, or he shoved her first. We don't know that. But what we do know is something went down and he snapped. He snapped to the point to where he strangled her to death. And let me tell y'all something. Something about strangulation. Strangulation takes a lot of strength because you are watching that person. They're giving you eye contact while you're giving them eye contact. I know about these things because, unfortunately, being a police academy was taught about the different criminal offenses and strangulation and stuff like that. How you look for the fingerprints. And you have to imagine, Mercedes Moore is small compared to this man. She's very petite. She's built like a little girl. She's a grown woman, but she's built like a little girl. Look at how big he is. Big and buff and greasy. Could you imagine when he put his hands around her neck? The hate, the anger that built up in him, to where she didn't stand a chance of being able to defend herself. Because when somebody is already in a rage, their strength is at an all-time high. As the rage in them escalates, so does the physical does their physical attack. That escalates as well. He snapped and strangled her out of anger, out of frustration, because he really realized this woman don't want me. She don't want me. She don't love me. She don't like me. And that's why I stressed to my daughter after that, please don't take advantage of these men unless you know what I mean? Don't believe them. Don't make them think you're going to give them some at the end of the night. Don't play with these men and their money and their feelings. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. Pay for your own meal. Pay for your own drink. Pay for your own car notes. Just do it the right way. He was so hurt that woman didn't want him like he wanted her. And that's what caused him to jump over the edge and unalive her. He couldn't handle not being wanted because he gave a lot. And like my father would tell me, never give a person more than you could afford to lose. If you got to look for it back, then don't even give it to them. Only give somebody something that you don't even look for it back. That way, if you do get it back, it's a bonus. It's a blessing. But if you got to look for it back, that means you're depending on it. Don't do it. Don't do it if you're looking for something back. Same thing with a woman. Listen, don't be going to bed with these men if you're looking for him to commit to you, in return have a relationship with you. Go to bed with him because that's what you want to do, and you can deal with the consequences of him not wanting anything to do with you after. It's better not to even put yourself in a situation, but we know women are hard-headed, and y'all gonna not abide by the word of God, and y'all gonna do what y'all want to do anyway, but be able to deal with the consequences. But if you know you're looking for something, then don't take a chance and go there and give a man your all in all, because you're devastated, you're distraught, when you realize at the end of the day you did all of that for nothing because you was not able to get that man to submit to you like you wanted him to. No different than men. And I tell men the same thing on my other channel. Don't give a woman money because you think that's going to bait her or win her over. Yeah, she'll take the money and still not want you. You cannot keep somebody at bay because you give them something that you treasure. Just because you treasured it enough to give it to them doesn't mean they're going to treasure it enough to do right by you with it. And you just have to deal with the reality of that. So, like I said, something went down. At this point, reality has set in. This woman is not breathing. She's not getting back up. He knows it's done. Now, this is my personal theory. I believe if her father would not have came in time, I believe he would have how could I say this? Graped. I believe he would have graped her. Because, you know, YouTube is sensitive. YouTube is on its administration. You can't say all kind of things. I believe he was going to take it at that moment. He was going to get back what he had been deprived of. I believe him being that asphyxiated, I believe he was going to take advantage of that situation and got back and got it right back out of her at that moment, even though she's no longer breathing or seeing or hearing to even know what's going on. I strongly believe he would have took advantage of that if he hadn't already been getting it. Even more so if he wasn't getting it. So happened, her father, parents' intuition kicked in. He came up there, and while he was upstairs, before he could think of anything else to do, after he unalived this young lady, he heard a big thump and kicking at the door. It probably scared the devil out of him, because he knew he unalived this young woman, and he knew somebody was kicking in the door and they was getting ready to enter. And he knew right then and there it was over for him. He had to make a decision. Do I stay alive and this person comes in and see I unalive this woman and they take my life, or do I make the decision to go ahead and take my life? Because I know either way it goes, that could be her family, that could be the police. Either way, if they catch me up here alive, I'm done. So just as soon as the father kicks in the door, and he notices his daughter is unalive, she's lifeless at the end of the stairs. He could tell she'd been strangled. Of course, he's next intuition kick in. Who the hell could have done this? Is that person still in here? Let me find them. He goes upstairs. Sure enough, by the time I'm sure at that point in time, as soon as he made it in, as soon as the father broke in through the door, he knew the father was actually inside the apartment. He knew, I got to do this now. He didn't give it a thought. He jugged himself in the neck with the knife. He know he had to do it quick. He had the time to think about it, because he was going to be done. Because her father, I'm sure, would have took his life if he wouldn't have took his own. He took the coward way out. He didn't want to face that he took this woman's life. He didn't want to face going to prison. He didn't want to face somebody taking his life because of it. So he took matters in his own hands, and he unalived himself. Only thing was, because it was a puncture and not a gunshot, he was still gurgling. So he was suffering. He suffered just like the victim who he unalived. He suffered. He had a very difficult death, because he didn't die instantly. He suffered, and he had to, the last face he saw was her father. If he would still have conscience in his mind, he saw her father come up those stairs and see him gurgling, and his life is fading right before his eyes. So Kevin Shore left here a hellified ass way, if you ask me. He saw himself unaliving Mercedes, and then he not only saw her father, he saw himself passing right before his eyes, and he suffered along with that because he didn't die instantly. Whenever it comes to a stabbing, that's a slow death, a slow pain. So his karma, he got that right away. I don't know if he thought he was going to avoid. He might have avoided prison. He might have avoided somebody else killing him, but he didn't avoid karma because it came right back on him. And I doubt he avoided hell. But, you know, God has such significant, sufficient grace. His love will stretch way far above and beyond. Unless him and God had an understanding when he went up there, I don't know. Because he was a victim as far as, you know, allowing himself to get used. So he felt. A lot of people say, Mocha, why would you say he's a victim? He's not no goddamn victim. He volunteered. He gave her his money. He up there simping for her. I get it. I feel you, ladies. I'm on the same page with y'all. But in his mind, he felt like he was a victim. Nobody was going to convince him that he wasn't a victim, that he wasn't being used, even though he voluntarily was paying for the services, if he was getting any damn services. So that's what happened. That is exactly what happened, y'all. See if I can pull up my scripture. So, as you can see, that whole situation, I'm sure it caught everybody by surprise. This man traveled all of those miles to hoping he would get a different outcome of the woman who he obviously caught feelings for, and she just didn't feel that way about him. And it's not her fault that he took it deeper than what he did. But that's why I tell women, be careful using these guys. Be careful lying to them. Don't make them think, because these men are more weaker vessels now. A lot of these men are becoming feminine like women. They can't handle their emotions. They don't have any type of masculine discipline on how to get a grip of themselves. They want to fight. They want to be messy. So you got to be prepared for all of that. Men are on a different level now. Just like women are on a different level. You got women who want to be masculine and try to do what men do. Try to take advantage of men like men take advantage of women. And they got to be careful with that, because a lot of these men ain't playing that. They're not playing these games. Talking about being aware of the seductress. Proverbs 5 through 7. Where's the chapter though? Where is the chapter? Let me just make sure I find the chapter, y'all, because I know y'all might want to go back and read some of these scriptures. Proverbs 5 through 7. Okay, I know this part is warning against seduction. Which chapter? I hate when some of these scriptures don't be specific. Okay, so Proverbs chapter 5, verses 5 through 7. I had to do some digging for that. In this particular chapter, Solomon writes to his son to give him advice when it comes to sexual morality. And a lot of men and women, if you have sons and daughters, it's very imperative that you talk to them about sexual morality. The advice is from God, and it applies to young men of Solomon's time and of our time. All men are vulnerable to being seduced into immorality, and over the course of time may have fallen for the trap of sexual immorality and adultery. As Proverbs chapter 7 verse 26 says, Speaking of the adulterous prostitute, for many are the victims she has cast down, and numerous are all her slain. Men need to be wary of the seductress, because this type of woman knows exactly how to work the way God has designed the male sexual appetite. The crowning point of God's creation was man and his God-given companion, the woman. Eve was Adam's greatest gift and perfect complement. As such, there is a great satisfaction desire that can be met honorably in marriage between a man and a woman. The sexual bond in marriage is powerful and purposely so as to the two fully become one. It is designed by God as a way of mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical oneness between husband and wife. And I have stressed this several times to all of you. God has condemned any sexual bond outside of marriage because he knows just how destructive it is to those involved in the act and to those hurt by its betrayal of trust. When sexual satisfaction and emotional and spiritual harmony are present in a marriage, it is significantly harder to be seduced outside of the marriage. Nevertheless, where the seeds of discontent have been sown, the seductress is ready to pounce on her prey. The seductress plays on the felt needs of the man for approval, respect, sexual fulfillment, physical closeness, and fleshly pleasure. She knows how men are wired, and she exploits it to her own advantage in evil purposes. No disrespect to the dead, but we know that Mercedes knew what she was doing, and she played and preyed on the flesh of these men, and it caught her to meet her demise. Let's just keeping it 100. No disrespect to the family, but she used her sexuality to her advantage. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 says, "For the lips of an adulteress drip honey, and smoother than oil is her speech." Let me make sure this is all in chapter 5, because I don't want to confuse y'all right quick. I just want to make sure is this all coming from chapter 5. Proverbs 5:7. Okay. All right. No, I think I'm in the right zone. All right. And if I'm not, you know, y'all are always welcome to correct me. Cause I be clicking and clacking and jumping from one thing to the next. And sometimes I lose my place and whatnot. So let me know if I'm not getting these scriptures right, y'all. So Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 says, "For the lips of an adulteress drip honey, and smoother than oil is her speech." Proverbs chapter 7 verse 21 asks, "With her many persuasions she entices him. With her flattering lips she seduces him." Words are a major part of the seduction arsenal, as a seductress flatters her prey and makes the man feel really good about himself. See also Proverbs chapter 6 verses 24 and also chapter 7 verse 5. "As the man eagle grows, so does his sexual appetite." Ain't that the truth? Her verbal persuasions continue by painting a visual picture of what she wants to do and where and how she wants to do it. This is also specified in Proverbs chapter 7 verses 14 through 18. She is an expert in deception, persuading her prey into believing that there will be no consequences, or that the consequences can be avoided. She uses her beauty, her eyes, her body, her clothes, and her words to blur the man's judgment such that he becomes caught up in the moment. This is why Joseph immediately fled when Potiphar's, make sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, Potiphar's wife approached him in a seductive manner, as he recognized that any hesitation on his part would prove seriously dangerous. This is awesome. I'm definitely, y'all, I'm going to do some more content on talking about the seductress. I got to save this for a whole nother content, honey, because I think this is really good medicine for the soul. We need to understand how these seductresses are, these seductress are able to captivate these men, how they use their sexuality and their flesh to manipulate these men. I'm definitely gonna have to do some content on that, because I'm way too far out now, and I don't want to keep y'all too much longer. So I'm going to pump the brakes. But y'all see my drift here. Mercedes, unfortunately, she met her demise based off of her seduction, with how she capitalized off of the flesh of these men. And also Kevin Acosta himself also met his demise because he had fell into temptation, and he allowed the flesh to lead him to desire a woman who had no type of desire for him other than his money. So anyway, we're going to get ready to shut it down, y'all. Before y'all leave, please hit that like button. Let me know what y'all think about this. Do y'all really believe that even though this happened in 2021, do y'all really believe that Kevin was just a crazed fan, a stalker, who was so obsessed with her Facebook page that he decided for some strange reason to just, stalk her, follow her, and become obsessed with her? Or was there some type of ongoing transaction, communication that led it all the way up until this point? Now, the other point I wanted to address, I almost forgot, I almost shut it down without telling y'all what he wrote on the door. This how I know there was something else going on. He said, "I wish I never loved her." He further says, "I should have stayed in Florida. I was used for money. Sorry to the landlord," and what the hell I says there. And trying to see if they got it somewhere. Okay, good. Somebody else rewrote it. "I should have stayed in Florida. I wish I never loved her, and I was used." The home had been destroyed with blood everywhere and messages on the wall written in lipstick. Okay, so it was lipstick, not his blood. Accordo lived in Florida, and they wasn't sure when he came from Texas and was able to track the model down. What else he said on there other than I know the father stated he was twitching and gurgling. I could look in the room, there was writings all over the walls. So okay, and there was blood all over the apartment and all of that. Okay, so basically he said the key word, she took my money and she used me. I don't think she took money one time. She been taking money from him, and that's what made him feel used. So it's been confirmed to me, y'all, that this is something that's been going on, and he fell for this woman. He never had a criminal record. He does not have a criminal history of doing this type of behavior. I heard a lot of, okay, I see here he put, I heard a lot of, I heard a lot, like he put, I heard a lot of people. Yeah, so this guy was just emotionally torn over this woman not wanting him. And he just couldn't handle it. So that's why women, be very careful taking advantage of these men. So anyway, y'all, leave y'all comment below. I'm going to shut it down. Again, I want to thank all of my members for joining my channel, becoming members. Those of you who are not members already, a small donation is great as well. Those who cannot donate, hit that like button. Always hit the like button, y'all. That's what gets my videos pushed and pushed and pushed further into the algorithms. If you can, share it on your Facebook, share it on your Twitter, send it to your friends, email them. Some of them be working at night, don't be having nothing to do. Girl, I want you to check out this girl, this lady. Me and her, she is so cool. She be giving the best of content. Check out Lady Mocha. Let me know what you think. So share my videos with your sisters, your aunts, your girlfriends, your daughters. You know, let them check me out as well. So anyway, y'all, I appreciate y'all so much. It is your girl, your diva in knowledge, Lady Mocha, representing Mocha's Lady Lounge. Y'all be blessed. Have a good weekend. And until next time, take care.